Welcome in, everybody. Another jam-packed Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented as always by TOA of Columbia. We come to you from the Lee Company Mobile Studios here across southern Middle Tennessee. Wade Neely sitting in the saddle alongside our trusty colleague Maurice Patton, who will be joining us audio-wise here in just a matter of moments. He's there visually. He was there visually, but we're working to get him rectified, but it's going to be a fun show today, folks. We are very excited about what we've got to get into today. We're going to talk a little college football. We're going to talk a little pro football. We're going to talk a little Major League Baseball, talk a little Braves, talk a little Astros, talk a little WNBA, kind of break it down at the end of the show with the grab bag. Should be an exciting show from top to bottom. Monday Mirror always is an exciting show from top to bottom, so I'm looking forward to it. Our guest today, we'll talk with John Brice of FootballScoop.com. That comes your way in hour number 2, breaking down Tennessee and their big win over NC State. We'll talk about a couple of other storylines in college football in that segment as well. And then coming up here in just a matter of moments, we will tap into TERESA Walker of the Associated Press, our good friend, the Tennessee sports media queen, as we will talk about the Tennessee Titans and woof. Really about the only thing you can say for the Titans yesterday, as it was a struggle bus in a variety of factors, and one of those that you just flat out feel like you gave away. And it's one of those that there's just no, man, it's tough to come away with that result yesterday feeling any sort of positivity, as it definitely feels like the proverbial rest in peace, the late, great former coach Dennis Green. You know, we let him off the hook, which ironically was against the Bears, that famous quote. But Titans do fall to the Bears 24-17. We'll break down that game with TERESA Walker, again, of the Associated Press, and a whole lot to get into as we roll through today's show. Still working to see if Maurice will join us audio-wise today. He's working feverishly. He and producer Mark Rogers behind the scenes to try and get us back to some sort of working order here.
Can you hear me?
We can. Yes, sir.
You can hear me. I can't hear you. So
some would say that's a good thing that he can't hear me. I've been told that a time or two throughout my life. That's good that folks can't hear me. So tell you what we'll do, folks. In an effort to juggle a few plates, in an effort to pay a few bills, in an effort to move the show along, we'll kickstart a little thing we do each and every single day. But especially today, it's going to be fun, as it always is. We'll kickstart and hopefully get Mo to join us in progress with today's rundown.
This is the rundown.
We will get into the rundown, but before we do so, I want to remind you that the Monday Rundown is brought to you by our friends at Zion Christian Academy. ZCA offers a faith-based, Christ-centered education right here in Murray County, so give them a call today at 931-388-5831, or you can visit zioneagles.org and schedule an appointment today. Once again, that's Zion Christian Academy, prepared for college and equipped for purpose. We go all the way back to Friday night. We go all the way back to our high school football scoreboard, and here are those scores from Friday night. Buckle up, folks, because there are quite a few as we zoom across Middle Tennessee. Antioch was a 40-6 winner versus Cane Ridge. BGA defeated Nashville Christian in a close one, 35-28. It was Beach 7, Riverdale nothing. Very low-scoring affair in that showdown there. Brentwood was a 56-14 winner versus Hendersonville. CPA on top of Pope John Paul II, 42-9. Cannon County all over Cheatham County. That was 48-16 in that showdown there. Centennial defeating Independence. Close game for some, as Independence keeps it tight. 20-13 was your final score there. Brentwood Academy wins at 23-13 versus Christian Brothers. It was Clarksville 42, Kenwood 12. Kirkwood was a 30-0 winner versus Clarksville Northwest. Columbia picks up a 24-0 win versus Hunters Lane. Columbia Academy on top of Friendship Christian, 21-15. DCA all over the Tennessee Heat, 56-21 was your final there. It was Davidson Academy 31, Portland 20. Dixon County was a 27-0 winner versus Clarksville Northeast. Moore County with a 21-14, good ball game there, 21-14 over Eagleville in their Friday showdown. East Nashville 49, John Overton 7. East Robertson 22, Monterey 15. Innsworth defeated Osceola, Arkansas, 48-0 was your final score there. Ezel Harding takes care of Glencliff, 19-18 was the final. Fairview on top of Stewart County. That is a 35-0 shutout for Fairview in that one. Giles County winning versus Fayetteville, 38-7 your final there. Page on top of Franklin, 14-0. Evangel Christian out of Alabama defeats Franklin Christian, 20-14 was your final. Grace Baptist Chattanooga defeating Innovation Academy 41-6. It was Middle Tennessee Christian 21, Grace Christian Franklin 14. Green Hill with a 20-0 win versus Summit. Loretto 34-7 versus Harpeth. It was Houston County 29, Perry County 0, Howard 30, Republic 0. Jackson Christian defeating Good Pasture 42-14. Whitwell on top of Joe Burns 49-7. Lincoln County with a very good region win versus Lawrence County, 28-19. Liberty Creek taking care of Smith County, 23-12. Lipscomb Academy, 35. Briarcrest Christian, 21. It was MBA over MUS, 31-0. Back half of your football scoreboard on Friday night, it was White House 34-7 over Montgomery Central. Mount Juliet picks up a 27-0 win versus Gallatin. Nolensville defeating McGavock 38-0. Oakland 49, Haywood 6. Pearl Cone winning over Creekwood 41-7. Providence Christian defeating Mount Juliet Christian 38-0 was your final there. Ravenwood edging Blackman 14-7. Smyrna taking care of Siegel 30-13. Maplewood stunning Spring Hill 19-14 was your final score there. Henry County on top of Springfield 23-22. Marshall County over Station Camp 40-7 in favor of the Tigers there. Stewart's Creek picks up a 35-0 win versus Hillsboro. It was Summertown 26, Hickman County 12. Summertown improving to 3-0 this season. It was Sycamore defeating Clarksville Academy 36-0. Tullahoma wins a 2-point ball game. What a nail biter it was there. 21-19. They defeat Rockvale on Friday night. Lebanon 35, Warren County 0. Sequatchie County rallies to defeat Watertown in a good ball game, 33-28. Mount Pleasant defeating Waverly 27-12. Richland hangs on for a win. Wayne County made it close late. 34-22 is the final, though, as the Raiders get a second straight win. Franklin Road Academy 49, Webb School 14. Rossview 31, West Creek 7, Westmoreland 42, White House Heritage 20. It was Whites Creek 52, Greenbrier 15, Wilson Central defeating Laverne 14-6. And our final score of interest from the football realm on Friday night, Zion Christian defeating CSTHEAA. That's the Patriots in an 8-man game, and that is 34-20 as Zion Christian wins that game on Friday night. Still live here and still flying solo. So if you were hoping for some diversity in your rundown voice today, I apologize, but we will get, again, try and get Mo back in here just as quick as we can. But for now, I want to spring through these volleyball scores. Go back to Friday. It was Mount Pleasant falling to Culleoka 3-0. Eagleville wins 3 matches. 2-0 versus Eastside, Georgia. 2-0 versus Washburn. And 2-0 versus Bullitt East out of Kentucky. Saturday volleyball action. Cleveland with a 2-1 win over Summit. Nolensville 2-0 versus Cleveland. Eagleville then wins 5 straight. 2-0 in all of these, unless otherwise. They defeat Taylor County. They defeat Musselman, who's out of West Virginia. They defeat Shelby Valley out of Kentucky. They do defeat Notre Dame 2-1 was your final there. They defeat Bearden 2-0. And that's all the scores for Eagleville. We move to Loretto now. Loretto defeating Creekwood 2-1. They defeat Milan 2-0. Clarksville defeats Loretto, however, 2-0. But Loretto bounces back with 2-0 wins versus Harpeth, Creekwood, and White House Heritage. Collierville defeats Oakland 2-0. Bob Jones out of Alabama defeating Riverdale 2-0. Oxford, Alabama 2, Siegel nothing. 2-1 was the score. Riverdale and Siegel playing a close one there. Oak Mountain, Alabama 2, Siegel nothing. Pace Academy, Georgia 2-0 over Siegel. That takes care of our volleyball scores from the weekend. Let's go to girls soccer action now. Friday scores: BGA with a 2-1 win versus Valor Collegiate. Lexington Catholic out of Kentucky with a 3-0 win versus Beach. Dixon County taking care of Gibbs 3-0. Giles County picks up a 3-1 win versus Franklin Christian. Arlington 3-0 versus Hume Fogg. Sevier County 4-0 win versus Cheatham County. Silverdale Academy 3-2 versus Station Camp. St. Agnes Academy and the University School of Nashville played to a 1-1 draw. Saturday action: Columbia defeating CSAS 2-1 was your score there. East Carter out of Kentucky 5, Cheatham County 1. Columbia with a 6-0 win versus Webb School. Dixon County 1-1 versus Daniel Boone. Green Hill with a 7-0 win versus Webb School. It was Harpeth Hall 3, McCracken County, Kentucky 0. Jefferson Academy with a 1-0 win versus Hume Fogg. Franklin Christian with a 1-1 draw, I should say, versus Knoxville Halls. Giles County with a big win, 9-0 versus Rockwood, as they continued play over in East Tennessee. Smyrna defeating Sevier County 2-0. Green Hill picks up a 7-0 win versus Seymour. Beach with a 1-1 win versus Silverdale Academy. Cheatham County 3-2 versus Smyrna. Sacred Heart Kentucky 3, Station Camp 0. Holy Cross 2, University School of Nashville, nothing. That moves us into Sunday. Sunday action in girls soccer. It was Sacred Heart 6, Beach 0. Green Hill 3, Columbia 1. Cooper, Kentucky 2-2 versus Hume Fogg. 2-2 draw there. Kingston defeating University School of Nashville 3-2. It was Knoxville Halls defeating Giles County. Crazy game in the championship of the Smoky Mountain Cup. And Knox Halls defeats the Lady Bobcats of Giles County 5-4. More on that game and that tournament later this week at PulaskiCitizen.com. Franklin Christian with a 4-1 win versus Rockwood. East Carter 2, Smyrna 1. That's East Carter out of Kentucky. 2-1 over Smyrna, that is. Dixon County picks up a 2-0 win versus Stone Memorial. Into college football for the weekend. Couple of scores here. NAI action for Cumberland, at least, as they defeat Union College. 38-14 was your score there. North Dakota State picks up a 52-3 win versus Tennessee State. Ole Miss, same score as North Dakota State and TSU. It was 52-3, favoring the Rebels over the MTSU Blue Raiders. Southern Illinois with a 31-17 win over Austin Peay. The Tennessee Vols defeating North Carolina State in the Duke Mayo Classic over in Charlotte. 51-10 was your final there. And Vanderbilt defeats Alcorn State 55-0. That concludes our college football section of the rundown. Mo, are you there this afternoon?
I think I am.
Yeah, there we go. Now we're talking.
Okay. All right. Where are we? Are we at Major League Baseball from the weekend? We are.
Yes, sir. Right in your wheelhouse there.
There we go. Just in time. The Braves took 2 of 3 from Toronto, winning Friday night 3-1, falling Saturday 9-5, winning in 11 innings on Sunday 4-3. The Astros also taken 2 of 3 at home from Arizona, winning 8-0 and 11-5 on Friday and Saturday, falling 12-6 in the series finale on Sunday. Over at First Horizon Park, the first 6 of 12 at home concluded this weekend. Gwinnett defeating the Sound 7-1 on Friday. Nashville bouncing back with a 6-2 win on Saturday and a 1-0 win. Pitchers duel on Sunday. WNBA action this weekend. Friday, the Aces defeated the Connecticut Sun 72-67. It was Minnesota 99, Indiana 88. The Dream with a 107-96 win over the Wings, and the Chicago Sky 92, the Los Angeles Sparks 78. On Saturday, Seattle defeated Phoenix 90-66. Sunday, Minnesota with a 78-71 win over the Mystics. The Liberty got up 20, trailed, and then held on for a 75-71 win over the Asia Wilson-less Las Vegas Aces. Indiana with a 104-100 win over Atlanta. It was Chicago without Angel Reese, 92, Dallas 77, and the Connecticut Sun defeated the Los Angeles Sparks 79-67. Football action of the professional sort. Titans gave one away in Chicago. Chicago 24, Titans 17. We'll be talking more about that later in the show. Volleyball action this evening. Let's start out at Santa Fe, where the Lady Wildcats will be taking on Mount Pleasant at 5 o'clock. 5:30 start for Hampshire and Culleoka. At 5:45, Columbia Academy travels to Battleground Academy. Also, Franklin Road Academy is at Middle Tennessee Christian. Webb School is at Providence Christian. 6 o'clock starts for Marshall County at Battle Creek, Cascade at Murfreesboro Central, Green Hill at Riverdale, Rockvale at Smyrna, Summertown at Spring Hill, and FC Boyd Christian at Zion Christian. Again, those are all 6 o'clock volleyball starts. Girls soccer this evening. McGavock is at Glencliff at 4. Kip Nashville is at, whoa, that's interesting. McGavock's playing a split doubleheader. Okay, so we've got McGavock at Glencliff at 4, and we've got Kip Nashville at McGavock at 5. I don't think both those are accurate. Check your local listings. Loretta goes to Culleoka for a 6 o'clock matchup. Also at 6 o'clock, Brentwood Academy is at Grace Christian of Franklin. Mount Juliet travels to Lipscomb Academy at 6:30. Also at 6:30, Portland is at Gallatin. 7 o'clock first touch for both Rossview at Clarksville and Battle Creek at Richland. At 5:40 tonight, in a one-off, the Cincinnati Reds and the Atlanta Braves will be making up a game down at Truist Park. Again, that's a 5:40 start there. You can see it on Valley Sports South. NFL action tonight. San Francisco is at the Jets, Wade, is that correct? Or is it the other way around? I know it's the 49ers and the Jets. And I can't hear you.
I was muted. Go figure. 7:15. That game is played out in San Francisco tonight, though.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your rundown. Your top story brought to you as always, and by the way, I've got no audio. Brought to you as always by Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options available until 6 o'clock every day. Also, their hand-cut meats and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And news breaking today, earlier today, Athletes Unlimited, which is a women's athletics initiative that has played professional basketball for 3 seasons, 2 of those in in Vegas in 2022, played the last 2 years in Dallas. Well, 2025's season will take place at Nashville's Municipal Auditorium. And it's an interesting dynamic. They sign 40 players, and those players are drafted on a week-by-week basis by 4 different captains. Captains are decided by the previous week's play, and points both are awarded for both team play and individual play. And so they will play a 24-game season at Municipal, which may be a precursor to professional basketball of the WNBA variety coming to town. So this is going to be something to keep an eye on. I think it'll be played, it'll start in February and finish up in early March, right before March Madness, I guess. So it's an interesting type situation, looks like to me, Wade.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty cool, but you hit the nail on the head. All due respect to Athletes Unlimited and everything that they've got going on, but to me, this is your dress rehearsal. This is your trial run to see if Nashville's got the goods after being kind of in the mix and rumored along with some other cities. Is the WNBA trial balloon potentially going to be out there for Nashville? And so this will be you said it best. I mean, this will be interesting, but it'll be exciting. Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell, he kind of is chomping at the bit here. I mean, this is a win for the city of Nashville also in the sense that Municipal Auditorium kind of gets a nice little new piece of inventory for them. So all in all, this seems like a good thing. Hopefully it's supported well enough that the WNBA execs, maybe like what they see.
Yeah, and like you said, Municipal kind of getting a little bit of a renaissance here between this and the Cats coming back this past season. Have not heard a lot about the Cats since things wound up with them falling in the semifinals of the Arena League, but it'll bear watching to see if they're back for year two. And like you said, more inventory for Municipal with Athletes United coming for February 25. We've got a couple of prospective guests that we are in the process of trying to secure in terms of Nashville and women's professional basketball. So stay tuned here on Main Street Sports Today. There's your top story. There's your first segment. We're going to take a break and let Wade rest his vocal cords just a little bit after really soldiering through the rundown. Appreciate that. Hopefully I'm here for the next bit. But we will be back here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. And when we return to the Lee Company studios, we'll be joined by TERESA Walker of the Associated Press, talking Little Titans. Stay tuned.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
He shoots, and he scores!
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers. Putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Welcome back to the Mark, I got some echo.
Mark, can you hear me?
We got you.
We got you. Okay. All right. Cool. Welcome back to the Monday Mirror. Here. Oh. Hello. There we go. Welcome back to the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm the struggling Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And we are joined now by the queen of Tennessee media, TERESA Walker of the Associated Press, as we look back at is debacle too strong a word for what took place at Soldier Field yesterday as the Titans led 17-0 and lost 24-17?
I don't know if I'd use debacle, but it's certain. I mean, you're up 17-0. That's a game you win. I mean, my colleague Josh Dubow, and let me know if you can't, if no one else can hear me, but it's very rare that you blow that kind of lead. I mean, the numbers are just ridiculous. I mean, I think I linked one. I mean, the defense held the Bears offense to under 2.8 yards per play. And the last 31 teams to do that won until yesterday. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other things that happened yesterday that those teams usually, when you do to the Bears what the Titans did to the Bears, you usually win those games. So you know, debacle, yeah. But let's also look. First-time head coach, they were 4.5-point dogs. Nobody expected them to go into Chicago and have a chance at that game. Now, the problem is when you're up 17-0, you should find a way to finish that off. Now, we talked with Brian Callahan today, and he said that this is what is going to hurt Titan fans. Brian Callahan had a conversation with Will Levis at the end of the third quarter. We can just literally punt the ball back to the Bears the rest of this game, the way our defense is playing, and win this game. That's what hurts. And he goes out there, don't have to do anything exceptional. Unfortunately, the left tackle rookie making his first start, there was pressure came around him, and that Will Levis just didn't feel it. It's, strip sacks happen in the NFL, and the defense held him to a field goal. Okay. Then came the killer. The play that literally cost them the game, and that was literally. And the bad thing is, Brian Callahan, said that there was some reversion, and you could see if you watch the replay, Will Levis drifts over to his left side. If he moves up in the pocket awareness moves up into the pocket, he's got a chance to be better protected by his teammates, his line mates, and they can protect him. Instead, he's in the grasp and then throws the ball not out of bounds, not into the ground, but into the hands of a defender who goes 43 yards for a pick six. The Bears tacked on a 2-point conversion for an 8-point play to make it a touchdown lead. And then the killer, this is a 10th NFL start for Will Levis. He had only thrown 4 interceptions as a rookie, and he had 2 of them in that fourth quarter. And the final one, they've got the ball. They've got a chance to drive. They need a touchdown to, and then an extra point to force overtime. Then you can talk about the decision of, do you go for 2 for the win on the road or just go for the, chance in overtime? And at that point, there's that last turnover, the last interception that was just the knife to the gut, but fixable. I mean, seven rookies played yesterday. 2 of them started. First-time head coach. Brian Callahan said he could be better with some of his play calling. So things are fixable. And then, guess what? You're playing a team that plays tonight at the 49ers. So the 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers is going to be making a 3-hour flight, plane ride home, and then having a turnaround on a short week and hit the road again, second straight week. The NFL did the Jets and Aaron Rodgers no favors scheduling, so they have to come here next Sunday, and then the week after that, you've got the Green Bay Packers, who Jordan Love. It's going to be tough for him to heal up in 10 days. or so. And, so you might be looking at Malik Willis as the starter here in Nashville on the 22nd. So it's like you can get right in a hurry if you fix the issues. The thing that Brian Callahan pointed out, they thought they had some of the footwork issues fixed based on what they'd seen in the preseason games, the joint practices, and there was some reversion there. So that's the problem. When you know, how many times has a parent told their kid not to do something and then they do it? That's where they're back at, trying to fix some of that. And Will Levis took the credit for giving that game away yesterday after the game. So he knows what he did. Can he fix it?
I guess my question would be, what else could he do other than take credit for it?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I've covered quarterbacks who found other people to throw under the bus in those situations. I'm not going to name names, but I've covered this franchise since they moved to the state of Tennessee. And, there was one, BY is my guy, had a habit of not really, he could find other people to toss under the bus. So, and they're players who are known as stand-up guys. And Will Levis was a stand-up guy yesterday. He took the blame for it. He didn't feel the pressure. Well, that wasn't the play that cost him the most. The pick six, the defense didn't even have a chance to stop that play. So, and again, they held the Bears to 2.79 yards per play. I mean, it was their best defensive performance since at least 2010. My analysis has moved, and I mean, in one area, it was their best opening day performance since 1995. They were still the Houston Oilers that year when they went into Jacksonville in that game. So it's like they did some really great stuff defensively with a first-time defensive coordinator. And, there are a lot of new pieces on this defense, and they went out there and smothered and covered and chunked. They just didn't get some turnovers there out of Caleb Williams. So if they could have done a little bit, more, they got their hands on balls. Arden Key batted a ball. Sebastian Joseph Day, who hadn't really noticed him, he made his presence felt. And a guy they literally elevated off the practice squad Saturday, he got pressure on Caleb Williams. If they do that kind of stuff and build on that, and Cheeto Awuzie was on a snap count of his own with a calf injury that got him back on the injury report Friday. He did some good stuff. So it's like they just need to, they've got some really great stuff defensively. They've got stuff to fix offensively. And on the punt that was blocked and returned for a touchdown, that was simply a guy got beat. And if you noticed, unlike December, I know that people were having Craig Aukerman flashbacks. Guess what? Unlike December, they managed to punt the ball the very next chance that Ryan Stonehouse went back out there. So, they've got some things to clean up. That happens coming off of a season opener with a first-time coach and a brand new staff and a lot of new faces.
For sure. And Teresa, you brought up an interesting point that I wanted to ask about. Titans defense did play well. Caleb Williams at times did play pretty poorly. Which in your mind was more of the storyline coming out of that game? Was it Caleb having kind of a real stinker, or were we truly kind of impressed with this defense? Because I'm kind of always the eternal optimist, and I kind of like what I saw out of Coach Wilson in that defense, even though it was against a rookie quarterback yesterday.
Well, let's not forget Caleb Williams, and I know the stat with number one quarterbacks had not won in forever. Kind of like an announcer jinx, it felt like, because I'm sorry, as I mentioned, I've covered all these Titan games, and I remember rookie quarterbacks having success against the Titans. Ryan Leaf has one of his very limited NFL wins against the then Tennessee Oilers in 1998. Okay. I could, if I do a little research, I could find a few other rookies who have wins against the Tennessee Titans. That defense held a NFL offense to 148 yards. And this is an offense that, let's not forget, the Titans got a lot of attention for the money they spent. Well, Chicago spent money too. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. You know, they did what the Titans did. They brought in help for their young quarterback, and they did not, Keenan Allen, I saw him pulling up in the end zone where they just couldn't connect in the end zone there. And that ball was, that was deep. It was not catchable. But I'm going to go with impressed with the defense, because that, you can do some things to a rookie, but they were doing what they had to do. When they needed to make plays and get off the field, they did. And what counted as offensive, they did not score an offensive touchdown yesterday.
Right.
Okay. Their 2 touchdowns came off of a punt block for return for a touchdown. Yay, Simone Biles' husband.
Mr. Simone Biles.
Yes. And then there was the pick 6. So I'm going to give that as an A+ to the defense. So, could they have gotten maybe a turnover, some things like that? Yes. So maybe graded as an A. But when you hold an opponent to those points and that amount of yards, this is a refrain we heard an awful lot the last 2 years. Your offense should win that game. And Brian Callahan knows. He was hired, and they spent a ton of money to help improve. This offense averaged 17.9 points a game last season. They scored 17 yesterday. So that has to get better.
TERESA Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. TERESA, if this season is a 17-game referendum on Will Levis's QB1 status, yesterday was a no, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a loss. So it goes in the loss column. He had 4 interceptions in his first 9 starts. And yesterday he had 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter and 3 turnovers in that fourth quarter. He was doing pretty good. And again, he was told that's what hurts. Brian Callahan, and I don't think it was in the back the bus up over the quarterback. It's a first-year coach knowing he's got a rookie quarterback. And he said there were growing pains with some guy named Joe Burrow as well. That worked out pretty well for the Cincinnati Bengals, as I've seen, and Titan fans well remember. In fact, the shirt I'm wearing was the Super Bowl that the Bengals reached with Joe Burrow today. So he knows that he's dealing with a young quarterback, and that he's going to have some growing pains. And that's the thing. How quickly does Will Levis learn? How quickly does he, and Will has been talking about this, that he knows he has to be patient and take what's there with this offense and not, and not try to do some of that. So, and Brian Callahan also mentioned there was one play where it looked like, Will Levis threw to an empty spot. Calvin Ridley was not in the spot he was supposed to be in. And so he made it very clear that he was not the only one who didn't do what he was supposed to do in that game. And if Calvin Ridley is in that spot, then that's a big play. Calvin Ridley also missed a block on a 2-yard loss on a toss to Chigaquanquo. So, there were, it's the first game that they played the entire game. And part of that, and Callahan also said that you'd like to see at least 70 plays on offense. They didn't get there. I think it was 61. So, they needed to stay on the field longer. And if guys, 8 penalties, they were, it was almost like, we've Titan fans, those first 2 drives, we've seen that a lot, right? And the funny thing is on Friday, Brian Callahan was asked, have you thought about what you're going to call for your first play? And he's like, no, I haven't thought about that. Haven't been dreaming about that. We do that on Fridays. So it's not like he sat around all offseason figuring out that run. I think Tony Pollard into the line. Don't worry about that. That was, call me crazy. I'm going to put my money down on a pass being the first play on Sunday. I'm just guessing.
Just getting ready to say the Tony Pollard debut seemed pretty nice, Teresa. And I think if you were a Titans fan, you were expecting this just finger snap and the offense to just magically be this, 50-point a game type experience. You were disappointed yesterday. But if you were, willing to dig and look through the various box score and look through some things, seemed like the offense was playing pretty well, especially when Pollard was clicking on the first couple of drives.
Well, he averaged 5.1 yards per game and, per rush rather, and 26-yard touchdown. I mean, that was a nice run. I saw a lot of that when he played at Memphis in college. And, we should have seen more of that in Dallas, but, Jared Jones, he spent a little bit of money on some guy named Zeke and that's limited Tony's touches in Dallas. So that's the guy. Now, Callahan did say that he'd like to see if even out some of the touches. Tyjae Spears didn't touch the ball as nearly as much. Part of that, the offense wasn't on the field enough. And, they've got a lot of offensive weapons and a lot of guys didn't get a lot of touches. DeAndre Hopkins was on a pitch count coming off of the knee injury, and he was on the field technically for 17 snaps. He kept his streak alive. He caught one pass for 8 yards. Would have liked to have seen Levis maybe look for him one more time, because here's the thing about DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to catch the ball if he's on the field and you throw it to him. We've seen that too often. So, Calvin Ridley is the guy who was targeted the most, and Calvin Ridley is the guy who's getting an awful lot of money from this team. But, for the run game situation, they did well in the run game. That, from the change from Derrick Henry era to now Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears, that seems to look really nice. No drop off whatsoever. And there were some holes that they created for them to run through. Now they had some problems, but again, and for people who were thinking about the offense picking up and just, going crazy, they scored 30 points and went 3-0 in the preseason. So yeah, there's this thought, ooh, this is going to be great. Brian Callahan has been cautioning it could take a month, because there's so many new pieces of just, you put the puzzle together on the table. Well, you start putting it together. It doesn't look like the box immediately. It can take you an hour or two to put all that stuff together. That's where the Titans find themselves right now, is working through that rhythm and putting those pieces together so that they know what to do when it's 3rd and 10 and, make sure that they're in more 3 and 2s.
Teresa Walker of the Associated Press joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Teresa, we appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I guess we'll catch up with you soon.
Thank you, Teresa.
When we come back here, as the Monday Struggle Bus continues, we'll be talking a little bit more NFL. Stay tuned.
You wanna be a bad man? Yeah, you do. Do you wanna taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Welcome to JHA Company, your trusted scholastic partner. We continue to serve schools with yearbooks, letter jackets, and graduation regalia. But now we offer so much more. Our school photography division offers high-quality images that capture the spirit and energy of your students and staff. Let us help build your identity, creating a cohesive look that represents your school's values and traditions. Our e-commerce solutions make it easy for schools to manage and sell their branded apparel online. Let's work together to make every school year unforgettable. Visit our website or contact us today to learn more. JHA Company, celebrating achievements, building identities, and creating memories.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see. whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com. The Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton, along with Wade Neely. We're coming to you from the Lee Company studios of our respective homes and battling through this Monday with some technological issues. But Wade, the Titans weren't the only game that took place yesterday in the NFL. And what happens when we have these big weekends with the NFL getting started and college football and everything else? We almost lose sight of a couple of things. But Friday night, there was an interesting situation late in that Packers-Eagles game down in Brazil as Jordan Love goes down with what is apparently an ankle sprain. Teresa Walker in the last segment mentioned Malik Willis and how he may be the starter when Green Bay comes in here in a couple of weeks. If Friday's performance was any indication, that may not necessarily be the case.
Yeah. Tough deal for the Packers. And I peeled back into Pulaski after our game Friday, was hanging out at the Citizen office, fired up the TV, watching the end as I'm unpacking some stuff. And it was a good, bad situation, right? Because Love made an amazing play to keep the game alive. If he goes down and is sacked, the game is over. But by keeping the play alive and tossing that fumble, or tossing that lateral rather, to extend the game, he was susceptible to injury. And yeah, it could be, potentially 3 to 6 weeks. At the time, obviously, you're thinking this looks like season-ending injury for a team that's potentially got aspirations of the Super Bowl. And then Malik comes in, and you're like, well, the one thing he's got is arm strength. And so for a guy that's ready to load it up and just throw one into the end zone, that's all you got to do is just load up and just throw it as far as you can and get it in the end zone. And he doesn't do that. He doesn't even get a throw off. So I'm not sure what Packers fans' expectations or hopes were. I think their hope and expectation was not to ever see Malik Willis in action. But unfortunately for them, they were subjected to it. And, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he ends up being the guy going forward, because they need desperately to hold down the fort until Jordan Love can such return.
However long or short a period of time that is, and that's part of the problem. But I wonder if there's another former Titans quarterback that figures into that equation for Green Bay.
That was given where we live, that was immediately a thought for, I think, a lot of folks. I think the first thought for a lot of folks in our area was, man, the Titans aren't going to have to play Jordan Love in 2 weeks. And based on what we saw with Malik Willis in the Titans uniform, and based on what we saw with him Friday, you got to feel pretty good. The Titans could potentially, regardless of what happens week 1 and week 2, about that game on September the 22nd. But who knows? Yeah, it'll be very interesting, because it feels like Tannehill was in that proverbial spot, like we mentioned. He's kind of too good to be just a pure backup.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also kind of not good enough in many regards for some folks to warrant a long contract as a QB1. And so maybe this is a potential situation. Still haven't heard any transactional news from Green Bay. As far as I know, Malik Willis was still the only quarterback on the roster. So they're going to have to bring in somebody in some capacity no matter what.
Yeah, he's the only quarterback on the roster. The former Penn State guy is on the practice squad, and I can't think of his name. But they've got an ex Penn State guy on the practice squad, and I think they're trying to stay away from him. I think that's why they traded for Malik to start with. But
Sean Clifford.
Becker's got a lot to play for, and if it's not Jordan Love, they've got to get a credible guy in there that can pick up that offense pretty quick and run with it. And Tannehill may be the answer if Love is out for 4 to 6 games, which is typical for an ankle sprain of that severity, it sounds like. So definitely something to keep an eye on there. Speaking of quarterbacks, Dallas didn't mind the dramatics of signing Dak on day one of the official regular season, I guess. 4-year, $240 million extension for Dak, making him the highest paid player in NFL history. Pretty amazing.
Yep, and kind of like we have kind of discussed for a couple weeks now, the Cowboys have gone out and made some big splashes. They've gone out and kept everybody happy. And let's just say their window, the time is now for the Dallas Cowboys. They need to make sure they try and get something done in terms of a big run in the next couple of years, in the shorter rather than later territory, because they've got a lot of big time players locked up on some big time deals. So good for Dak. The interesting thing about that, Mo, is we bashed Levis, and rightfully so, in the first segment, but the quarterbacks by and large yesterday across the league were not very good. I think Tua was the only quarterback that threw for 300 yards. And 80 of those came on one play to Tyreek Hill. So the quarterback play was not great. Prescott was 19 of 32 and a touchdown, which, you're thinking, okay, that's not necessarily the greatest, but you didn't have to be great because Deshaun Watson was horribly bad, comically bad, and talk about the all-time pantheon of potentially bad contract situations. Cleveland has really got a big decision to make here, because this is a team that was in the top half of the AFC standings at the end of the regular season last year without Deshaun Watson. They were hoping that he could come back in and maybe guide them, but they looked awful in that game yesterday with him at the helm. And so in the battle of big quarterback contracts, Dak Prescott wins that battle. Dallas looks pretty good coming out of their week 1 showdown yesterday.
Meanwhile, speaking of big-time quarterbacks, it wasn't necessarily Joe Burrow, but Cincinnati did not look great in an eventual 16-10 loss to what it's supposed to be not a great New England team this year. Kicked a field goal with about 3 minutes. Well, they cut the lead to 16-10, got the ball back with about 3 minutes left, and then punted it away on a 3-and-out, and never got the ball back again after turning it over 3 times in a 16-10 loss to the Patriots. So, like you said, not stellar quarterback play across the league this weekend.
No, it really wasn't. And that's a little bit of a generalization. There were some serviceable performances, but the Bengals, did not look great. That was by far the biggest stunner. If you're in a survivor league, odds are if you didn't pick the Bengals, you're sitting pretty, because over half of the league that I'm in was eliminated in the very first week because, the Patriots were supposed to be pretty bad, but, man, they looked pretty feisty, pretty spicy. We didn't ask Jacoby Brissett to go out and do a lot yesterday, and he really didn't go out and do a lot, but he also didn't turn it over, and that's what allowed them to get the victory, the fact that they didn't turn it over. They benefited. That fumble right around the 1-yard line for the Bengals, I still don't know how in the world that play happened and how in the world the Patriots recovered. Surefire looks like it's going to be a touchdown. And then, it was just that kind of day for the Bengals. And once that play happened, I'm kind of scratching my head like, this is not going to be their day. Stevenson runs for over 120 yards, or right at 120 yards. They looked a little better. The Bengals did not look very good, and Joe Burrow falls. He's now 1-8 all time in games played in week 1 and week 2. So he's only won one of his career openers. And the Bengals, in a very competitive AFC North, do not look very good right now.
Never a dull moment, and that goes for the Dolphins as well. coming back to beat Jacksonville. But you knew after the pregame issues that Tyreek Hill had that he was going to have a big play at some point in that ball game. He goes 80 yards for a score and then celebrates by coming off the field in handcuffs. I mean, again, odd situation for him prior to the game where he is stopped and detained outside the stadium by law enforcement and at one point handcuffed. And again, you just knew with all of that going on that he was going to come up big at some point just because that's what he does.
Sure felt like it. Let the Scotty Scheffler jokes commence, because everybody was saying, yeah, if he was due for a Scheffler-like performance, and man, did he deliver. It took him a little while. I mean, in the Jaguars, talk about a game that you're going to be kicking yourself. That's one they had there for the taking, and a pretty decent performance from Trevor Lawrence. Again, not great by any stretch, but not bad. Didn't turn it over. And the fact that you let the Dolphins get back in that game and the Jaguars fumbled or turned it over right before that play, before Reek got loose on the 80-yard touchdown. I mean, that is a monstrous swing and a big turn of events, as the Dolphins got to feel like they certainly escaped one. Crazy situation before the game. Him and Calais Campbell both getting involved. I mean, it was just very odd, very unusual. Social media is blowing up, and the internet is just in all-time high moments of just crazy this league type news. It's borderline NBA levels of this league type moments. And then the Dolphins come out and lay an egg for the majority of the game. But to your point, we knew that Reek was going to come back and deliver, and he did. 7 catches, 130 yards, including that 80-yard bomb.
Absolutely. Again, San Francisco hosting the Jets on Monday Night Football tonight, 7:15. The Jets will be without defensive end Hassan Reddick, and things are starting to get serious now. This guy's been holding out, but now it's going to cost him a game check, which in his case is right at $800,000.
Sure would be nice. The Jets have kind of boxed themselves in a corner, and he's kind of boxed himself in a corner here. I'm kind of hoping that it's a situation close to what we saw last year with the Chiefs and Chris Jones. I mean, they were bad in that week 1 loss to the Lions last year without his services. And I'm hoping maybe something like this happens tonight. The Jets aren't in a position. They're going to be probably talented enough, if the hype is real, to overcome a loss tonight. But you really are not in the business of throwing away games. But if you could potentially throw away a game to get this deal done and kind of get everybody back on the same page, I might be willing to take that, because he could be a huge part of your team. Like I said, kind of like we saw with Jones last year, who obviously was such an integral part of their run defensively to the Super Bowl.
Sometimes you got to lose a battle to win a war. Maybe that'll be the case tonight for the Jets. So we'll see how that one goes. That wraps up hour number 1 of the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back to the Lee Company studios after this break, let's talk a little Braves. Stay tuned.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
September 9th, 1969, Phil Niekro allowed a run on six hits over 10 innings, and Ralph Gar's base hit scored Sonny Jackson with the game winner as the Braves edged the visiting Dodgers 2-1. Niekro improved to 20-12 on the year, notching its first 20-win season. Atlanta closed to within a game and a half of first place in the NL West with the victory, trailing division leader San Francisco and second place Cincinnati. That was this day in Braves history. Weekend could have been better for Atlanta, but they wound up taking 2 of 3 from Toronto at home, winning the first one and the last one, 3-1 on Friday, 4-3 in 11 innings on Sunday, dropping a 9-5 decision on Sunday. So yesterday's win and New York's loss to Cincinnati forced a tie for the third wild card spot in the National League, and guess it's going to be that way right up until that last 3-game series between the Braves and the Mets. Sale goes 6 shutout innings yesterday and gets a no decision, but at least the Braves were able to get out with the victory there. So Chris Sale continuing to pretty much put his stamp on the NL Cy Young Award with, again, 6 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts in that ball game yesterday.
Yeah, good win for him. Good win for Atlanta. And, yeah, I'm dialing up the trusty odds here. Fangraphs swinging in favor of Atlanta. Is that series versus the Mets? Is that a home series?
It is.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's the potential decider there. Yeah, Fangraphs 72.5% for Atlanta, just 50% for the Mets as far as making the playoffs. So, you'd like to hopefully take care of business before you maybe take some of the stress or take some of the heat off of that series, but at least that's at home. At least that's in your back pocket. And yeah, but right now, 2 out of 3. I mean, hey, just keep stacking. As long as the Mets aren't winning 3 out of 3, you'll take 2 out of 3.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And speaking of 2 out of 3, your guys got 2 of 3 at home against Arizona over the weekend to hang on to a 4.5 game lead in the AL West.
It's interesting you say that because last night, I think it was during halftime of the Lions game, I said, oh yeah, there was baseball this weekend. I'm gonna have to at least pretend like I know what I'm talking about on air on Monday. So I had to look and see the results after the football coma I was in all weekend. And yeah, 2 out of 3 versus a, sneaky good D-backs team. Got to feel pretty good. Verlander, however, had a horrific, one of his worst starts in a long time. I mean, like 15 years, the last 12 years, I think I read bad. And so now the question is, the talk is that guy, he may not make the potential rotation for a first round playoff series. So they're kind of in the spot now where things are looking okay. And it's kind of just a little bit more of maintenance and tweaking. There's still about a 97% chance to win their division, according to Fangraphs, but it's only down to 4.5. So, I mean, it's nice to keep, again, stacking 2 out of 3 rather than 1 out of 3.
Yeah. It's tough to think that the Astros would go into the postseason and Justin Verlander would not be a factor as a starter for them. But, when you've got Valdez and you've got Blanco and you've got
Kikuchi's been on fire.
Arrighetti coming along, Hunter Brown is giving you guys some good innings as well. I mean, maybe Verlander is a long reliever in that scenario for y'all.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's something I wouldn't have thought of, but just reading. Like I said, Kikuchi that they got from the Rays at the deadline has been lights out. He's been arguably their best guy since the trade deadline. So kind of reading this, ESPN had the big article, and it's like, how does he fit into their plans? I mean, that's something that we're at the point in his career that it's like, whoa, yeah, you kind of have to take a step back and say, you just chalk it up and just assume that it's a foregone conclusion. But potentially, maybe not. And so, which is wild to think about for a staff that has had so many injury issues throughout the season and has had struggles throughout the season. The fact that you could be potentially looking at a deal where Verlander may not get into your postseason plans, at least to start.
It's, when you look at that roster, it's just really hard to fathom that. But when you get to that point of the year, you got to go with results.
Yeah, and I mean, he was down. He gave up 8 runs in 3 innings yesterday. And I mean, like I said, it was one of his worst starts. 2012 or 2013, I think. It was bad. And so he's had a couple of stinkers as of late too, which is interesting because he had pitched pretty well in the summer. And just something in the last 6 weeks has kind of not gone his way, and it is not looking good. And I mean, the results, like you said, have not been kind. And at some point, you just have to let that take over rather than kind of anecdotal.
Yeah. I mean, you see it in Atlanta with Snitker all the time. I mean, you want to give your veterans every opportunity, but I mean, maybe it's just kind of time to pull the plug on Verlander for 2024 anyway. So that's the good news is they're going to have to make.
Yeah, and the good news is, I mean, you still got potentially a couple weeks. Trot him out there for another start or two. Maybe he gets it turned around. And the tea leaves that I'm kind of reading, it's not as if necessarily that he's – now, granted, yes, this weekend was an absolutely horrific effort, but it's not as if he's kind of getting it taken away from him so much as if we're talking about just 3 starts potentially, to get things started. I mean, these other guys have been going out and earning it. So this will be fascinating to watch. But again, we still got 3 weeks here to see kind of how things will go and where he fits in the plans there.
You guys continue at home after an off day today. You've got Oakland coming in, so that should help things a little bit as well.
Presumably, they've been known to lose a stray game or 2 to the A's, so we shall see. That's one of them. I said 2 out of 3 is usually pretty good. Let's go 3 out of 3 with them.
Yeah. You can
White Sox and A's. You get to redraw. You get to redraw your expectations when those teams come to town.
Exactly. Again, Atlanta hosting Cincinnati in a 1-game makeup situation here tonight. 5:40 first pitch there. Nick Martinez 7-6 with a 3.67 ERA going for the Reds. Charlie Morton 8-7, 4.24 getting the start for the Braves in that one. And a win would be nice to just kind of keep the good vibes going, as Wade likes to say. Meanwhile, as they try to hold off the Mets for that 3rd and final wild card spot out of the National League at this point, news out of New York. Jeff McNeil out for the rest of the year with a broken wrist. Apparently, he was hit by a pitch Friday in the Mets walk-off win over Cincinnati in 10 and was placed on the injured list yesterday. So basically sounds like the same type situation that Austin Riley had a couple of weeks ago out at Anaheim. But breaking ball when McNeil was trying to bunt early in that game and stayed in to run the bases, but when his spot to hit came up, he came out. So McNeil done. Since the All-Star break was hitting .289 with 7 of his 12 home runs. So had been surging for the Mets. So tough loss for them.
Yeah, back to the drawing board for them. And maybe something that gives Atlanta just enough of a little bit of an edge there. We'll see how creative they get. He was second base and sounds like playing a little kind of small utility role, kind of around in the corner outfield at times for them.
Mm-hmm.
So a little flexibility, a little diversity there in their lineup, now out for the rest of the year.
The Mets had won 9 straight before yesterday's loss to Cincinnati. So hopefully that one will cool them off a little bit. Not sure who they've got today or if they've got today. Mets are at Toronto. So maybe Toronto can do us a solid after getting out of Atlanta, having taken that Saturday game. Maybe throw a little bit of a crimp in the Mets style here over the next few days as well.
Yeah, you just softened them up a little bit, and now it's up for them to maybe try and get back and get right against New York here.
Absolutely. Shohei hit another home run. 45th of the year. That was on Friday night. Let's see. 45 homers, 46 steals. Highest totals of combined totals by anybody in a single season. And again, obviously, those numbers put him in striking distance with about 3 weeks left of 50-50. Nobody's ever done it. Only 3 players have had 50 home runs and 50 steals at any point in their career. Obviously, nobody's done it in the same year. But Bonds had 73 homers in 01 and 52 steals in 90. Brady Anderson had 50 home runs in 96 and 53 steals in 92. So
legendary home run hitter.
The legendary Brady Anderson.
Yeah, and the crazy part with Shohei, I mean, they've needed that too, right? I mean, we've talked about injuries for our 2 teams, but the Dodgers have been hit with them just as well. And the fact that they've still been able to kind of fend off the Padres, the D-backs, and even the Giants for a little bit there. He's had to do it. I mean, if not him, then it feels like that would have been one too many for them to overcome. And he's kind of kept them where they are as everybody's kind of had times in and out of various availability for the Dodgers.
Yeah, arguably, to be fair, the Dodgers have probably dealt with more injuries and worse injuries than anybody else in Major League Baseball, because I think their entire rotation at one point has been sidelined. So, I mean, I begrudgingly acknowledge that because, I mean, again, the Braves have really been through it. Like you said, the Astros have been through it. It really kind of seems like it's been across baseball this year for one reason or another. But for the Dodgers to deal with everything they've dealt with and still be 86 and 57, and like you said, a lot of that has to be attributable to Shohei Ohtani.
So yeah, and we joked a couple months ago, when Betts gets hurt, how wild it was going to be to see Ohtani slide up to the leadoff spot and do what he's been able to do. And sure enough, that's exactly what's happened. And man, he's he's just so fun to watch, and it's just has been really valuable for them in the sense that, they have been hit just as hard as anybody. And the fact that, there's 6 games up on the Padres and the D-backs, which both those teams have kind of cooled off a little bit. The pot was, kind of bubbling a little bit there for a moment in that NL West, but it looks like we've restored it a little bit as he has kind of brought that calming effect for them by and large.
86-57, quiet as it's kept, is the best record in Major League Baseball. So, just for what that's worth. Let's go ahead and take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Lee Company studios, we will visit with John Brice of Football Scoop, talking a little college football. Stay tuned after this.
We thrive under the lights. A city of performers, putting on one heck of a show. Headlining night after night. Welcome to Smashville.
Whether you're an athlete or a weekend warrior, when it comes to your performance, don't settle for anything less than excellence. We're proud to announce that Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint Clinic is now Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, where we are redefining sports medicine and orthopedics. Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance's team of expert sports medicine physicians understands the unique demands of your body. TOA Columbia specializes in personalized orthopedic care, offering state-of-the-art treatments for everything from sports injuries to joint replacements. Learn more at toacolumbia.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Nashville Sounds Baseball is back in Hit City for the 2024 season. Spend your nights and weekends at the ballpark with weekly giveaways, fireworks shows, throwback deals, live music, and more. Top talent will take the field at First Horizon Park against the AAA Minnesota Twins, Baltimore Orioles, Atlanta Braves, St. Louis Cardinals, Cincinnati Reds, and more. Tickets start at just $10 and are available now at NashvilleSounds.com. We will see you in Hit City.
Welcome back to the Monday Mirror here on Main Street Sports Today. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. And we are joined now by John Brice of Football Scoop. John, good afternoon.
Great to visit with you, Mo. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for your patience the last couple of weeks in working out my schedule.
No, man, I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot going on. We appreciate you working us in. Big weekend this past weekend. What should we take from the UT NC State game? I mean, was that Tennessee asserting its dominance, or was North Carolina State not as good as we thought they were, or both?
Both, I think, for sure. I think that North Carolina State is not very good. They're not very dynamic. Now, they're very well coached overall, and they're certainly usually very fundamentally sound on defense, but they're not a dynamic offensive football team outside of Concepcion, and they don't have enough weapons to consistently use him to his max abilities. And Tennessee's good, and we always talk about the Tennessee offense, but I dropped this stat earlier today on our Football Scoop podcast, and that is Tennessee's defense had 13 tackles for loss on Saturday and gave up only 10 first downs. Yeah, more tackles for loss than first downs allowed is something I can't remember happening in a really long time.
You'll take that as a defensive coordinator, won't you?
Yeah, Tim Banks continuing to do some great things with the Vols defense. That's why he's sort of been on the periphery of head coaching candidates in recent years. MTSU talked to him at length for its opening before going with Derek Mason. And so I would expect the more Tennessee wins, the more you'll hear Tim Banks as the next head coach somewhere.
They are ranked number 7 in this week's AP Top 25. I mean, do you feel like that's about right for them at this point?
At least, I think you can make an argument for Tennessee to have gone to a quote unquote neutral site, even though it was a de facto Vols home game in North Carolina State. I think you can make an argument they could be up there a little bit higher. Certainly, Tennessee has looked better in its opening 2 wins than an Oregon has, and I think NC State is a better win than what Boise State was over the weekend, and that was a home game for the Ducks, and they struggled mightily and had to come back and win. And Tennessee controlled this thing from opening kick till the final merciful bell.
Yeah, I walked out of the movie theater this weekend, John, and I saw Beetlejuice, and my head literally was like spinning around in a circle, kind of like Beetlejuice, because I opened up the score in Tennessee, 51 points. I think that part, Vols fans could have envisioned. But to your point, the defense, it seems like, is playing. We know all about James Pierce, but it seems like by and large, the defense as a whole is something that everybody's kind of scratching their heads on, Rocky Top, like, okay, this is something we weren't maybe anticipating, right?
Yeah, and I think it's look, we all knew about James Pierce. If he stays healthy, he's probably a top 5 pick in the 25 NFL draft, but it's the contributions from all over the place beyond James Pierce. Rodney Garner, of course, is an elite defensive line coach. They're getting really good play at the linebacker position. Boo Carter is going to be a star. He's continuing to grow each and every game. And yeah, I think maybe I even predicted Tennessee to win along the lines of 38-13. So I really thought the Vols would be dominant in that game, but Tony Gibson doesn't get exposed like that, the NC State defensive coordinator, very often. Of course, some of that was Tennessee's defense scoring in the game as well. But Tennessee is a really good team, and they're a complete team. And Dylan Sampson is probably the most unheralded running back in college football right now.
Do you feel like that game kind of changed the expectations for Tennessee going forward, John?
Yeah, for sure. Well, a couple of things did in my mind, Mo. I thought Tennessee could challenge as a playoff team this year, but based on what we saw yesterday from them, Saturday from them, and also what we saw Saturday from Oklahoma, which is supposed to be Tennessee's first big test, the Sooners struggled against a completely rebuilding Houston team and didn't score an offensive point in the second half of that contest and won only 16-12, just 1 week after Houston was absolutely embarrassed at home by UNLV. So I think that Tennessee has far more answers than questions right now. Not that there's not room for improvement, but I think Oklahoma has far more questions. And so if you see Tennessee able to go to Oklahoma and snag a win here in 12 days, then I think it changes everything. Then you start thinking about Tennessee challenging to maybe be a top 3 SEC team, which is just a little bit higher than I probably expected going into the season. And you also start looking at the very real possibility that if Tennessee keeps handling business, it'll have a great chance to host a college football playoff game if it does not happen to win the SEC championship. And one other component, Kentucky looks really, really bad, just really. And that was supposed to be another test game for the Vols. And right now it's hard to see too many teams that are playing as well as Tennessee right now that are still on the Vols schedule.
You know, you kind of segued into it. What happened in Lexington?
They're bad offensively. I had somebody there, somebody in college athletics there at that game this past weekend tell me that, yeah, Kentucky looks a little physically bigger maybe than it has, but they also look really, really slow. They're not very dynamic. Brock Vandegrift at one point, I think, had 3 turnovers and 3 completions at the same point in the game, and this was in the second half. And so their defense was on the field too much. Their offense doesn't have an identity. It's not explosive. The offensive line is not playing well. And now all of a sudden Kentucky is 2-8 in its last 10 SEC home games under Mark Stoops. And, oh, no big deal. They've got top-ranked Georgia coming to town this week. So you can go ahead and make it 2-9.
Yeah.
Did this all start when Stoops declared Kentucky to be a football school?
You know, I think it predates that a little bit. Certainly, he and Calipari had their war of words last summer leading into the season, and it was disappointing. But the fact of the matter is, Mark Stoops is only like 2-28 all time against SEC teams that finished the season with a winning record. And he's gotten fat off of the softest non-conference schedule year in and year out in the entire SEC. I joke, but I've got some serious undertones that Kentucky's won several MAC championships under Mark Stoops, but that's about it.
I was getting ready. Yeah, John, to that point, I was getting ready to ask, put these in order, if you will. Most embarrassing home performance of the weekend. The Michigan Wolverines, the Kentucky Wildcats, or the Notre Dame Fighting Irish?
That one's not even a contest for me. It's Notre Dame by far. It was, look, I thought Michigan would get handled pretty much about what it was. I might have picked 31-10, something like that. I just thought I think Michigan's not done being exposed this year from the headsets on down. I think they've got some issues, and they continue to have to deal with the Connor Stallions mess on the periphery. Kentucky was embarrassing, but they were 11.5-point favorites against another a conference foe that they've been pretty level with in recent years, and a conference foe that's obviously a power conference program. Notre Dame was a 28.5-point favorite at home, their home debut, mind you, not just the home game, their home opener. Every reason in the world to take care of business, and they did not. And it was a completely disjointed performance, no offensive identity. Even though the defense only allowed 16 points, which, you know, you only give up 16 points, especially against a MAC team, you got to think you're going to win every time. But they did allow almost 400 yards offense, and they did allow NIU to hold the ball for almost exactly 35 minutes, including 22 minutes in the second half. Just a wholly embarrassing program. Look, I'm writing this story right now. Steve Sarkisian said he told his Texas team today, hey, whatever you do, don't do a Notre Dame this week. So when you're being used by coaches as exactly what not to do, that's a pretty damning indictment of what Notre Dame did on Saturday.
Absolutely. Hey, and that reminds me too, you mentioned NC State a moment ago. We've talked about Georgia Tech earlier. And we obviously go back to week 1. We've heard Virginia Tech. SMU also loses on Friday. How many teams have to be considered sleepers, quote unquote, to win the ACC? Because it feels like all those schools have been called a sleeper to win the league this year, and they've all stubbed their toe already in some shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah, I mean, I thought going into the year that it would be Miami versus Clemson for the ACC championship. I kind of still lean that direction. I know Virginia Tech had returned all those starters and was such a trendy pick, 20 out of 22 starters, I think, on offense and defense combined. But hats off to Clark Lee and Nick Lazinski and Jimmy Thompson, a lot of Notre Dame ties there, some guys I know. That was a hell of a win for Vanderbilt. They took care of business exactly as they needed to against Alcorn. And I was not surprised that SMU lost on Friday. I actually picked BYU on the Football Scoop Picks panel straight up. I thought that BYU would be more physical. I'd seen SMU. The Mustangs should have lost their opener at Nevada. They're not physical enough. I don't think they have the depth yet to be an ACC team. They're not done losing. The ACC's got a lot of parity, but it doesn't have a lot of excellence.
John Brice of footballscoop.com joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Revisiting Notre Dame for just a second, John, you're right there in South Bend. Any Marcus Freeman concern at this point?
No, I mean, look, the concern is that it's year 3 and they're not handling success better. And that he felt the need to come out today and say, we've got to do a better job of dealing with success. And I don't think that's a year 3 statement that you want to have a head coach say, especially when there has been hiccups in previous seasons after significant victories. And so I think that's problematic. But look, he's still the cupboard. As much as Notre Dame had won, the cupboard was not fully stocked when he took over for Brian Kelly. He has elevated the recruiting and the talent level at Notre Dame, along with his GM, Chad Bowden. He has won some very big games, and I think last weekend was maybe his 6th win already against an AP top 20 team. So that's certainly significant. It was just he gained so much equity a week ago in College Station with a really sound, gutsy performance, and he gave it all away. You know, you go from having tremendous equity in your home to suddenly looking like you need a HELOC, and that's sort of where we are right now. And they've got to spend the rest of the season getting it back because Louisville's ranked, and then USC is ranked, but there's not a lot of a ranked meet right now on the Notre Dame schedule. And look, I made this point on the Football Scoop podcast a week ago. The hotels in South Bend were already jacking up rates for the 3rd weekend in December when the opening round of the playoffs are, because there's an expectation that Notre Dame would be hosting a playoff game. And now the Irish absolutely have to run off 10 wins in a row to have a chance to host a playoff game. And even in that scenario with this loss, I don't think they could be the 5 seed, which was obviously the ideal path for the Irish. So it's not time to panic yet. But again, the margin of error now is single ply toilet paper. It's thin.
John, obviously there is a lot of attention being focused on a certain football program in Boulder, Colorado. They went to Lincoln, Nebraska this weekend. I don't know if exposed is the right word because I don't necessarily know what the expectation was for Colorado going into that game, but Shedeur Sanders leaving the field early is not a good look under any circumstance.
Yeah.
What is going on out there?
That is a bad look. Deion's getting ready, I think, to host his standard Monday press conference any moment. So I'm hoping to be able to tune into that here in just a few minutes. There was some indication that Shedeur might have been injured and going to the locker room to get checked out. There were other indications that was absolutely not the case. I haven't listened to all of his post-game press conference from Saturday night. He did address the media. I know some people interpreted his comments as laying all the blame on his offensive line. That's certainly not organic leadership, and but it's also not necessarily untrue when he was sacked 5 times and the Buffs had 0 net rushing yards. And of course, they went in the transfer portal and got Dallin Hayden, son of former Vols great Aaron Hayden from Ohio State this offseason. Dallin's a really talented back, but that offensive line just has not come along the way they need it to. They also don't have an identity other than relying on Shedeur Sanders, his accuracy and his throw game. They're not balanced enough. They still don't remotely have enough depth on either side of the ball. And much like I pointed to with Kentucky, they don't have remotely enough dynamic players. Travis Hunter is as good as anybody in college football. He probably won't be a Heisman finalist because I think Colorado's got a lot more losing left in front of it, but he's really dynamic. Shedeur Sanders can be an elite quarterback. Jimmy Horn Jr. is a nice receiver, but they just don't have enough dynamics on either side of the ball right now.
Finished 4-8 last year. Do they match that?
I think so. I think, Baylor is really down. They've got Baylor coming in a couple of weeks. They've got Colorado State this week. Now, look, if they lose this game to Colorado State and it's up in Fort Collins, then you will start hearing a lot louder murmurs about whether or not Deion Sanders can get it done and whether or not this has just been a gimmick. I like a lot of the things that Deion does. I think he does truly seek to provide mentorship and provide an example of developing into prosperous men in society. I love some of his initiatives in the classroom where his guys can't sit in the back row. They can't wear tank tops to class. They're expected to be in the front row. They take attendance. They do some of these things that he's talked about. I think there's an accountability there that he endeavors to instill in his kids, but he's got to get more done on the field as well.
Was there anything else over this weekend that jumped out at you, good, bad, ugly?
There were a couple of FCS teams that got FBS wins. I think Utah Tech or somebody beat UTEP, and then I forget, maybe it was Idaho it was Idaho that beat Wyoming. And of course, Idaho a week before had played Oregon to within 10 points. Jason Eck, the head coach at Idaho, I know him a little bit. Pay attention to that name. He'll be an FBS head coach sooner rather than later. Beyond that, Clemson bounced back in a big way. I'm not surprised by that, although they finally looked like they had a semblance of consistent offense. Alabama struggling way into the fourth quarter against South Florida. Alex Golish, the former Vols offensive coordinator, doing a great job down in Tampa. He's got a chance to win a lot more games and also be a guy who could make the jump from Group of 5 head coach to Power 4 head coach.
John, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned Oregon. What in the heck I know Boise State is really, really good, and they maybe have the Heisman front runner right now at the running back position. What's going on with Oregon? And then this blew my mind, obviously, with the scheduling the way it is. Oregon plays Oregon State this weekend, which is wild to think about Civil War happening in September right now.
Yeah, well, that's because Oregon State has no conference, and Oregon is suddenly part of the Big Ten, which makes all the sense in the world since you can't think about the ACC without thinking about Stanford and Cal. They've got to get their offensive line issues figured out. And they wore shirts last week. Their offensive linemen wore shirts that said 2.9 YPC because they had averaged 2.9 yards per carry the week before in that win against Idaho. They had vowed to be better. They were not markedly better. They did enough to win this game. And they're doing some better things on the offensive line. They're not Dylan Gabriel's not stretching the field. He's very accurate, but their downfield throw game isn't there right now. They're just not as explosive as they were a year ago under Bo Nix.
John Brice of footballscoop.com joining us here on Main Street Sports today. John, appreciate you taking some time with us, catching up with us. Look forward to catching up with you again soon, man.
Yeah, anytime. You didn't warn me that I was going to have to follow the GOAT, TERESA Walker, but hopefully I did okay.
No, trust me, you're just fine, man. We appreciate it. We'll talk.
Thanks, boys.
Thank you, John.
Hey, when we come back here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, it's the final segment of the day. Yay, we made it. Stay tuned when we come back for the Lee Company Studios and get into the grab bag after this.
He shoots, and he scores!
So, you want to be a part of the Busy Bee team, huh? Well, how do you see yourself fitting into the organization? Oh, I get it. You want to be a weather bee.
Do you want to be a bad man? Yeah, you do. Do you want to taste sweet salvation underneath the summer moon? Do you need another hand now? Yes, you do. Go see Miss Josie down on Columbus Avenue. All right, Columbus Avenue.
Monday Mirror continues here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Let's get into the grab bag. Wade, anything else jump out from you from Saturday? For you from Saturday?
Not a great day to be. Well, they're always good days to be Michigan Wolverines, but yeah, that one was a stretch on on Saturday, and
I mean,
Texas is really good.
Bryce,
That should have been obviously the national championship game last year, and I'm not gonna lie, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't glad that it was Washington instead of Texas in last year's national championship game. So maybe it was just a little reconciliation, I suppose, because the Longhorns look good.
yeah, Bryce was saying that he kind of expected Michigan to get a little exposed Saturday, and this might not be the end of their exposure. Was that a concern for you coming into this season as well for Michigan?
Absolutely. Yeah, there were some real, and again, I'm Mr. Sunshine and puppy dogs and rainbows, but even for the most optimistic of folks, it was going to be a bit of a stretch for them to probably pull off what they got. They got a lot of questions. I mean, they had 13 draft picks last year. That's in addition to all the coaching turmoil and turnover that they've had. So this will be a challenging year. Keep expectations low, and if you can somehow find a way to be competitive in some Big Ten games versus schools like Penn State and Ohio State, we'll take that. You still got to think about trips to what they got to go to Washington coming up in a couple weeks, which is going to be crazy. So yeah, it may get ugly this season. And we'll just have to see what happens, because it was not pretty. Texas is as good as advertised, and it will be fun to watch them. And we've joked, that they could play Georgia 3 different times this season. It certainly felt like, based on what we saw yesterday, we're going to see them 2 play at least twice this year. I don't know if we'll get the third, but man, it felt like we're going to get the second. And Michigan now 0-2 all time against Texas. I told you on Friday that I still had PTSD from Vince Young and the Rose Bowl back in 2005. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, it got worse this weekend.
It's hard to believe that 2 of the historic titans in college football had only played 1 time before Saturday.
Kind of wild, right? And I mean, I guess that is just a product of the old school, Rose Bowl and Cotton Bowl. I mean, just the schedule, did not favor those type matchups. And so it was very cool. And I will say this, it was and I think it was MGO Blog, who does a great job covering Michigan for years and years. I think it was them that pointed this out. This is a game that could have easily, both schools could have came together and said, let's move this and play it in Indianapolis at the Colt Stadium, or, move it somewhere and play it somewhere bigger for bigger money and bigger ratings. But they didn't do that. And as crappy as the game was on Saturday, we were rewarded with a picture-perfect Saturday morning vibe of everything that is epic about college football. The uniforms, the bands, Charles Woodson and McConaughey staring each other down before the game. I mean, it had it all. And I wish the game would have lived up to the billing. But, yeah, that's a salute to Texas because they are as good as advertised. And props, though, for those administrators for not chasing the bag in that regard.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into our picks. For obvious reasons, but our alma mater did not cover Saturday.
No, it did not look good. And like I said, it was for me, it was going to come down to whether or not Ole Miss kind of wanted to continue to prove that they're as good as they can be, and they kind of didn't. If they really wanted to, they probably could have made it a little worse. MTSU did as best they could. I just hope that didn't damage MTSU's confidence. We're going to the game on Saturday. It's going to be fun versus Western Kentucky. But, man, that's always one you're leery about, right? You want to have some confidence coming into that game. But how much confidence do you take away from 52-3 over the weekend?
Right. And, by the way, the MTSU Duke game a week from Saturday has now been picked up by ESPNU. That's 3 o'clock kick. So make your plans for that one as well. Wade, once the Titans got done doing what they were doing, and once the Braves got done doing what they were doing yesterday afternoon, rather than picking up another NFL game, I found myself watching the Aces and Liberty. Apparently the Aces, without Asia Wilson, had been down as much as 20 in that ball game, battled back to get it tied, and I think actually took a lead before losing 75-71. Again, without Asia Wilson. Now, I don't know that Becky Hammond and that bunch put much stock in moral victories, but playing without the best player in the league on the road and playing the best team in the league to a 4-point game as the two-time defending champions, you got to take a little something out of that, don't you?
You would think so. And shame on me. But yeah, I didn't watch any of the game yesterday. And, you go on the road and, I mean, that's a rivalry in a sense that there's bad blood from the postseason from the last several years. So the fact that the Aces were able to keep it close without Wilson, it sounds like, in the lineup was, that's something that kind of gets you excited and speaks to the depth of the Aces, but also speaks to kind of the fortitude, right, of the team. Like, hey, we may be without our number one, but we're also this is a team that we try and get up for. So what'll be interesting to see, the Aces, they close out. They got a couple games versus the Fever, 2 games back to back in Indy. Then they got the Sun, the Storm, and the Wings. So they don't exactly got the easiest of schedules, and they do have a little bit of a cushion on the Storm. So it looks like they're perfectly situated in that spot between the Lynx and the Storm. But it's same deal, kind of like I just mentioned a moment ago. It'd be nice to get a little momentum going in toward the playoffs here as they kind of hopefully get back on the right side of things. 6-4 in their last 10.
The Sky taking a blow with Angel Reese going down apparently with a wrist injury. She's out for the remainder of the year as they, try to secure a playoff spot. So does this pretty well put the Rookie of the Year conversation to bed, do you think?
I think so. I think it was pretty much put to bed with the way that, with all due respect to Angel Reese, but Caitlin Clark's been just doing bonkers things since post-Paris. And what really stinks is we just talked about it on this show, right, last week. I mean, rest in peace, David Stern, but we were begging and praying, that if he were running this bad boy, there would be somehow a Sky and Fever postseason matchup where there would be some opportunity for at least the Sky to get into the playoffs. And that all still is kind of true, but obviously it doesn't quite have the same kind of appeal with Angel not being in there.
Right now, the Sky looking like they've got the number 8 spot in the playoffs, just ahead of the Dream, right behind the Mercury. Well, not right behind. Looks like about 4 points back of the Mercury, 4 games back of the Mercury. But again, hanging on to that 8 spot, Indiana with the 6 right now. So Sky with 5 games remaining. They've got let's see. Wednesday they play at home against Washington. Then they go to Minnesota. They are at home against the Mercury. They go to Atlanta, and they finish at Connecticut a week from Thursday. So things starting to wind down for them. And interestingly,
so they do go to Atlanta, you said, though? I mean, that could be, it could be basically a play-in game because it's down to them too, it sounds like.
Getting the start, I think, in Angel's place yesterday against the Mercury was former Hillsborough High standout Isabel Harrison.
Called her name a bunch on this show throughout the year for the Sky. It'll be interesting because they have not played well. We mentioned the Fever a moment ago has been on fire since Paris, but they have gone the opposite direction. But they have won 2 in a row. And so it's like I said, it's them and the Dream kind of in a 2-team race, kind of almost like the Braves and the Mets in that regard. And the Sky, ESPN, this is their power rankings and projections, if you will, has them around 55.5% and the Dream at around 32%. For any token Mystics fans out there, there is about a 13% chance for them, but it's really going to sound like they need some extra help. So it's the Sky and the Dream coming down the stretch here, kind of duking it out. And I don't know, it feels like for as fun as this regular season has been, it does obviously take a little bit of the steam out that Angel's going to be shut down. But I still think it's going to be a pretty entertaining postseason as well as we get things cranked up here in a couple of weeks.
Well, I mean, again, when you're looking at a situation where your two-time defending league champion is going to be a 4 seed, looks like, that really kind of throws things a little wide open, you feel like.
I think so. And so that's going to be the interesting question for me, right? Is the Aces I think they've kind of gotten to their max potential for this season. But the question is, so they're not holding anything back, I guess, where I'm going with that. But the question is, do they have that kind of championship run and that championship mentality kind of still tapped in and just waiting to release it into playoffs? Because if they do, seems like we see it with all the great teams, whether it's the Chiefs or we saw it with the Nuggets 2 years ago. I guess to an extent, the Celtics this year, only losing 2 games in the postseason. The really good teams, it feels like as good as they are even in the regular season, they kind of have that extra gear in the postseason. And if the Aces have that, then yeah, this could be a really fun and really wild postseason because some of the other teams around them, the Lynx and the Storm especially, have been playing very well in the West this year.
Absolutely. By the way, Isabel Harrison, 21 points, 9 rebounds in that 92-77 win over Dallas. So
good effort. Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. That's nice to be able to bring in behind a potential rookie of the year candidate like that off the bench. So congrats to Izzy. Big performance in that one. Wade, I asked you about a week and a half ago about the U.S. Open, and you said you weren't paying any attention to it at that point. Did that ever change?
Didn't change, unfortunately. I hate to say it, football got in the way. That darn football. Did keep up with TFO, and I watched a little bit of his matches. I love Francis TFO, and he's just electric to watch. And the Americans being as deep as they were in the U.S. Open this year was kind of cool. I was hoping that TFO and Fritz would have been somehow obviously been able to match up in the championship. But the fact that they had to meet in the semis, it was like a good news, bad news, right? It was the bad news is they couldn't meet in the championship, but the good news is there was going to be an American in the finals. And so we had an American on the female side and we had an American on the men's as well. And they just couldn't get it done. So I didn't watch any of it, but did loosely keep up with it. And, we'll give it a go again next year at Flushing Meadows because it's been a long time. I think I read it's been a while since the men for sure. There's been an American winner in New York.
You didn't watch, but this year's U.S. Open marked the first time that it's gone over 1 million fans in attendance. Over the full 3 weeks, the tournament drew a total of 1,048,669 fans. That was an 8% increase over last year. The 2 weeks of the main draw drew 832,640, which was a new tournament record.
I mean, it seems like it's growing. And I mean, I will say this. I did keep up. This is kind of sad, right? I kept up more with the celebs and who all was there. I saw the pics of Taylor Swift and Kelsey, Steph Curry, Juwan Howard was in the crowd. I mean, I kept up with those pictures on socials every night on my Instagram feed, I think more than I did the actual matches. So it is kind of a cool event and it is unique. I just didn't get to watch. And where did I see this? You got to go all the way back to 2003. That was the year Andy Roddick was the last U.S. men's winner to take care of business. So it's been a hot minute. It was a fun tournament, but unfortunately I didn't watch it. I watched as much U.S. Open as I watched as the Muletown pickleball tournament that went down this weekend that had everybody in Columbia fired up, which is to say I didn't watch any, unfortunately.
You didn't watch the Muletown pickleball tournament?
I saw kind of like the U.S. Open. I saw some pictures. I had some friends that were playing, and I saw the photos of the outfits, and I saw the crowd. Mayor Molders, pumped up. I enjoyed what I saw, but no, I did not catch any of the live stream. We'll chalk it up to DirecTV issues. I didn't scope any of the Muletown pickleball this weekend.
Well, Direct does need to get their stuff together, but I did get Fubo over the weekend.
I was going to ask, did you get the situation resolved? I know you were a little concerned about, especially the Vols game for Saturday.
I watched the Vols game. We were getting Fubo loaded up at about midnight, Friday night / Saturday morning, while I was writing about Columbia Academy and Friendship Christian. We were getting that taken care of. So yeah, I was actually able to watch UT and North Carolina State from the best seat in my house. So life was good Saturday evening.
I love it. Now, is this a long-term investment, or are we just going with the free trial here? Because the good news is
we are still in the free trial.
You can bounce from free trial to free trial for a little bit here. And maybe in that time, ESPN, you can pick up YouTube, Hulu Live, and some others and kind of just ping pong around maybe until such time DirecTV finally gets their act together, it sounds like.
Well, ideally that would be the case, but there are some that don't play well with Bally Sports either. And considering the Braves, that's kind of a must as well. So
that's what I'm saying. You can use these free trials for others until DirecTV for the games. When the Braves are not in action. Yeah, absolutely. That's what got a couple friends that's what they're kind of relegated to right now because DirecTV. I was just on ESPN. They have a button.
I don't know that I want to try to keep up like that with all of the free trials though.
I don't. Yeah. Now that is a fact. I don't blame you. I'm sitting there on the NFL Sunday ticket.
Yeah,
was it $785 $785 lump sum coming my way if I don't forget to cancel in 2 weeks for Sunday ticket?
That's what always scares me too.
I got like 6 reminders set on my phone, so surely between now and then we should be able to get it taken care of.
Well, and the concern there is how do they count 7 days?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think I'd rather be safe than sorry. No, we're probably just going to roll with Fubo and get rid of Direct because I don't think they're going to get this resolved in the next 2 or 3 days, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't find it again, but I was scrolling through ESPN during our run of show today, and they have a button in the corner, basically where you can kind of join the fight, as it were, and sign your name to voice your displeasure against DirecTV. So maybe the online petition will get the big bad DirecTV folks to cave at some point.
Yeah. I mean, certainly Direct again is leading a PR war and trying to make this out to be ESPN. But I'm just not sure who the bad guys are here. But I think I'm just gonna play Switzerland and walk away and just go with Fubo. So
I like that strategy because Fubo's solid. They got everything on there for you.
I'm sorry.
I said Fubo's good because they have your Bally's on there, if I'm not mistaken.
They do, exactly. So
yeah,
I mean, I've got my Bally's and I've got my Disney's, and so yeah, I'm just kind of scrolling through and kind of trying to familiarize myself with everything else that's available right now. But yeah, I think Fubo is going to kind of be the way to go here for the next while, at least. So, y'all, that's going to do it for the Monday Mirror edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Tune in at 2:00 tomorrow. We'll be in the studio, right, Wade?
Let's do it.
We will be at West 7th. We will be visiting with the Blue Raider voice, Chip Walters. Not sure who our early guest will be tomorrow, but check in and see. Again, 2:00 Tuesday, Main Street Sports Today. We'll see y'all then.